So CityMD is an urgent care chain, and we strive to deliver kindness and care in 115 locations here in the metro area. We have a few in Washington State, but it's a practice of over 500 almost full-time, most of them full-time providers, whether you're physicians and PAs, serving kindness. I was not always a doctor and not always CityMD. When I was growing up, this is a story about this is a New York immigrant story. But growing up in New York, all we ever did with my parents was open and close stores, retail stores. And my dad is proud to say he had the first Korean signage in New York. It was in Broadway in the 30s, 1930s, in the 30-something street area. And dinner table conversation would go something like this. Son, do you see all the garbage bags outside that store? So yeah, Dad. Do you know what that means? It means a lot of business. So as a kid, can you imagine I'm walking around talking to my other friends, but look at all the garbage outside that restaurant. Can you imagine that's a great location. That would be a great location. Now, fast forward a few years, and after high school, I couldn't afford college, so I didn't go to college. I opened up a one-hour photo store. The first one was on 82nd and 2nd Avenue, and then ultimately we moved to 77th and Lex. 1 hour photo, developed millions of prints. CityMD is 1 hour medicine. It's no different. All the skill set I learned looking at garbage outside of stores and finding locations and taking care of customers quickly, it's almost doing the same thing. So it's amazing how you think you have a lot of control over what you do in your decision making. You really don't. It's a lot of your culture, your heritage. That's the power of culture. You're doing things you don't even realize. You can't even undo it. When I was in the 4th grade, I fell off a slide and I broke my tailbone. And back then, there was no universal health care for children. There was no Child Health Plus. And so I didn't want to tell my parents that in addition to the refrigerator turning off because you can't pay the bills, now you got to pay for a doctor bill. And I didn't tell them, and after 3 days, my dad finally said, this is crazy, you're clearly not well, let's take you to a doctor. So he took me to Dr. Kim. Dr. Kim is a friend of my dad, and he took care of me in his basement of his house. It was in Forest Hills. I remember almost like every detail of this. First, it was the first home I've ever been to in my life, right? Hobbling in, and he takes care of me. He gives me basically Motrin, an NSAID from his medicine cabinet. In his basement, he had a makeshift exam room. Now, I'm a doctor now, so I know there's not much you can do for a broken tailbone other than pain medication. But when I got that pill, it felt like magic. I felt like if I took this pill, my bones would like magically knit together and get better. So anyway, I got pills and I left, and I was walking out and just feeling really good about it. But I did ask my dad on the way out, how much did that cost? I had a lot of financial concerns for a little kid. I don't know why. I always was like that. It's kind of crazy. And he said it was for free. And I remember Dr. Kim taking him to a corner of the room and speaking to him out of earshot of his child. In retrospect, as a parent of a 19 and 17-year-old, I understand that now, but not to embarrass him. So that's probably where he told him, don't worry about the cost, it's free. Now, Dr. Kim did this for probably thousands of kids in this community. A lot of immigrants. Dr. Kim came to my house 3 weeks ago. Like all these years later, he comes to my house, and he's 87 today, and I go, Dr. Kim, do you remember taking care of me for my tailbone? And you know what he said? He said nothing. He just walked by. He had no patience. He had no recollection of what I was talking about. And when you're 87, you don't have time for chit-chat. Like that's just like a waste of my time. So he walks by. Now, the point of that story is that what for him was an everyday occurrence. Every day, that's what he did. Because that's what doctors did back then. They cared for people. They visited you at your home. They took care of you because they delivered your parents. It's a different way of doing things. What to me, I will never forget, and actually influences how we run CityMD today, is an everyday thing for him. When I went to medicine and applied to medical school, my dad said to me, you realize, first of all, I was an undergrad at Penn. I deferred a year to go to Penn Wharton undergrad. And working in the store, my dad said to me, son, you will never make it at Wharton or anything corporate, So I suggest you use something different, which I did. But he decided medical school. He thought maybe social worker, teacher, something like that. When I applied to medical school, you realize that, I think this is the right thing for you, number one, but you realize that when you go into medicine, you are giving yourself in the life for the service of others. Right? You're going to miss hours, miss family time, and the conception back then was you're going to work 120 hours a week. Right? And yeah, that's what we signed up for. Now, somewhere along the line, healthcare has changed a little bit, but it has. So we believe, there's a lot of talk out there. Yes, artificial intelligence, data, big data, digital, it's going to save healthcare. Maybe. It's important. We need it. But not with the absence of humanity. When people stop caring, it doesn't work. One of my heroes of healthcare is a company called ChenMed. Have any of you guys heard of ChenMed? Right. So ChenMed was this family in Miami, Florida, and they take care of a lot of Medicare patients. But because of who they were, everybody dumped their worst patients on them. Their very worst patients. And they figured out a way to take care of people that everyone dumped on them. And they sent a guy named Bob Coker, Dr. Coker, if you know him. He's now with a company called Devoted. But he's an investor / policy wonk, part of the ACA with Obama. Big name in healthcare. They sent him down to investigate because there's clearly fraud going on at ChenMed. And he gets down there and he says, you know what? He calls back, you guys got to come down and see what's going on here. This is not fraud. This is something amazing. ChenMed was able to take the sickest of the sick Medicare patients and save money. Now, how did they do that? Now they have 70 locations. There was a time when they would open up in the South or Southwest or in the Midwest. They're kind of supported by Humana, by the way. Obama himself would come down. They would send people down to extol the virtues of what they do. It turns out the basis of what they do is care. They spend a lot of time on their providers to provide care for their patients, real care. Not just artificial care, not care replaced by AI, but care augmented by AI. They have some technology, not a lot. But when you care for people, people trust you. And when people trust you, they listen to you. When they listen to you, you can get them to the right place, if you're aligned with the right thing, right? And that's kind of, I think, our story at CityMD. Every time I go, it's not, we have to reinforce the importance of caring, because that's what's going to fix healthcare. Think about your favorite musician. I'll tell you mine. Mine is Sting. I think Sting is the coolest human being ever to live. If I could be reborn, I'd be one. I want to be Sting. Right? And I paid to go to one of his concerts, and he was singing some like jazz music, something kind of left field from what I was expecting. I paid to hear Roxanne. Okay? And he wasn't singing, he ended up singing Roxanne later. Now, I bet for Sting, every time he goes up, he doesn't want to sing Roxanne every time for 30, 40 years. He's probably tired of singing Roxanne. He wants to sing what interests him, this new jazz, and he's really cool, right? My job and your job, at least not for now, my job is to sing Roxanne. No matter where I go, whether I'm in front of bankers or financiers or my board, serving kindness, right? I went to undergrad at Wharton, so there's every once in a while I speak at a conference and they'll have, Richard Park, MD, MBA. And one of my board members recently came to me and goes, Rich, you have an MBA? I'm like, no, I have undergrad, no, not an MBA. And he goes, that's what I thought. That's okay, I know. But unless someone has a point of view or perspective and pounds at it, it never gets heard. And it takes courage. And so you guys have to find your Roxanne, your courage. Caring for people does work. It can save money if people trust you, getting people to the right place. On my way here and on my way home, often I'm in my car, nice car, and I live in Long Island, and I pass by homeless people all the time. How does it make any sense in today's society that I drive my car past someone that has no food, no shelter, freezing in the cold? I don't know about you, but Richard Park of 20, 30 years ago would not be proud necessarily of who I am today. I don't want to live in a world where that makes sense. Now, I have two boys, 19 and 17-year-old, and they're both handicapped. My younger one's nonverbal. My older one has a lot of psychiatric issues. And I got to tell you, it had not been for just a little twist of fate or twist of luck, they'd be that homeless guy I'm passing every day. Somehow we've become completely immune, and we've lost all sensibility and rationality in this amazing country we live in. Caring for people is important. You guys are in technology, don't become robots, right? There's nothing to save. We need technology to save people and humans. So that's my Roxanne story. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Future of Care is New York City's premier community for healthcare innovation. To learn more, subscribe to our channel and visit our website at futureofcare.nyc.